UK property market rebounds. Highest sales for 4 years. According to Zoopla, what is driving that though? And where are the prices rising fastest? Okay, basically, if you look at May 2025 market report, then they're saying we've got the strongest market growth since 2021. Sales agreed in May are 6% up year on year, marking the most active month. Buyer confidence has returned, reversing the hesitation seen in late 2023. Post-Easter recovery, there was a lull over Easter, as there always is, and also at the end of the stamp duty holiday, it was quiet. But now things are really bouncing back, and we're seeing a lot of that here at APW Towers, people saying, let's get in. The resurgence is driven by a combination of more competitive mortgage rates, increased affordability, a wider selection of lending products, but also the ongoing PRS, public rental sector crisis. So let's just go through those points. House price growth is holding steady. House prices rose by 1.6% annually. Average home now in the UK is valued at £268,200. That's a £4,330 increase year on year. It's not a great deal, and in reality, if you think about it, compared to inflation, it's actually going backwards. So houses are actually becoming more affordable as we go along. More homes are on the market, so that means that buyers' choice is improving. There are 13% more homes for sale than at this time last year. The average estate agency has now 35 unsold homes on their books, helping fuel market movement, as most sellers are also buyers. And that's one of the banes of the UK property market, is the chain scenario. So if you're coming in from international and you're just buying a property, you're in a great position because you're not in a chain, because it can be very painful to say the least. If you've got more information on how chains work, drop us an email, I'll let you know.
Sorry to interrupt, but if you're enjoying this piece of content and would like to find out more about buying property and our key 10 steps to doing so, then pop your details in the link below somewhere and grab a copy of our book, 10 Steps to 10K, the Expat Property Playbook. Enjoy.
So what are the mortgage deals out there? Sub 4%. Okay, yes, inflation was up, and yes, people are saying will be more interest rate cuts, and yes, there will be. So rates are still falling among the more competitive banks. So 4% are on the market. To us, we're getting about 4.8% offshore. Updated affordability tests are allowing buyers to borrow another 20%, which again is driving the market forward. But the major thing, as we see it, is the continuing PRS supply crisis. What's going on there? What is PRS? Public rental sector. The supply of homes for rent hasn't been far from the headlines, and we've been talking about it a lot for quite a few years. Figures spanning the last decade have seen the number of tenants looking for homes consistently outweighing supply, with some periods seeing dozens of households competing for each home to rent, i.e. a waiting list of 12 or 15 people trying to get into one property. Despite this, recent figures from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government show that private rental sector has in fact grown year on year. So how can that be? It's saying there's an extra 15,000 properties out there in the market 2023, 2024. So what is the real underlying story? If you look at other data from respected industry sources, actually wrong? Is it misleading us all in some way? Is actually the market getting better and not worse? Are there more properties coming out there? Are we all blowing this thing out of proportion, and is APW the worst at doing that? The picture is often the case is often slightly more nuanced. There's more factors that people don't take into consideration. The picture, as often is the case, is slightly more nuanced. The government data that covering the 2023-2024 period and published in March this year does indeed show that there were 4.9 million rented homes in England, 19% of 25.6 million homes in the country, so it's up by more than 15,000 on the previous year. However, the data also shows that the rate of growth is slowing considerably. Put this into context, statistics from the same survey in 2022-2023 showed an additional 31,000 homes available being added to the stock, almost double this year's figure. And the rate of growth was also down by 3/4 compared to 2021. So overall, we're seeing a shrinking in the number of houses available for rent. At the same time, property platform Zoopla says there's currently an average of 12 renters competing for every home to let. And analysis by Savills suggesting 1 million new homes to rent will be needed by 2031 to meet growing demand. What this tells us, in basic terms, is that while supply isn't going down, the rate of growth still isn't strong enough to meet demand. In short, the sector isn't shrinking, it's just not growing fast enough. And if we look at what the government's been saying about building 1.5 million homes, during their tenure in Parliament, they're already 50% below where they should be. And there's a variety of heaps of factors in there. So what does it mean? This is basically a myth-busting exercise we're having here. We're clearing up some of the confusion around the plethora of figures that are bandied around, but it does not affect the core message that we've been sharing with our clients of late. There are simply not enough rental homes to go around in the UK, and therefore the market will continue to grow. What's going to happen next? Is it going to get better? We've got these new houses being built. people are out there doing it. Well, obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, but the legislative change on the horizon in the form of Renters' Rights Bill and the changes to minimum energy efficiency standards is so extensive that it's going to have an impact. Difficult to quantify the impact of the Renters' Rights Bill on supply, but there are very, very, very clear figures when it comes to MEES, which is minimum energy efficiency standards. There are 2.5 million rented homes in England that currently fall below the minimum EPC C standard the government has pledged to introduce. These homes will legally have to be removed from the market if they fail to reach the new standard by 2028 for new tenancies and by 2030 for existing ones. While a proportion of these no doubt will hit a target and get the works done in time, it's extremely unlikely they'll be able to meet all these targets, whether that's due to lack of funds to carry out the works or the availability of tradespeople to physically do it. Don't forget that recent figures have shown there's a shortfall of 166,000 skilled tradespeople in the UK, and that figure is likely to go up to 250,000 by 2030. Where have all the poles gone? The government has pledged to get the country building, but this is going to take time. In the meantime, the waiting list for social housing is the highest it's been since 2014, where just 1 in 8 renters can afford to buy in the area which they live, or afford to get into their property in the area they live. That's what the research is saying. So you've got a picture where you've got a slightly growing rental market, but the future is looking quite grim. The EPC certification is going to be a hard ask. If you're looking at a house that's worth £100,000, 3-bed terrace house, and you're renting it out, and the cost of doing it up is going to be 15% of that to get to standard C. Does that make it worthwhile as a landlord? Are you going to have the money to do it? I think in many cases, no. So the ongoing crisis of supply is going to continue, which is not great for anyone. People who are trying to rent or people who are trying to invest in the UK. So what are the forecasts for 2025? Optimistic, but let's not go crazy. We've got 5% more completed sales, probably 2% annual price increases. The continued and growing undersupply of rental properties will support the buy-to-let market. So basically, those are the factors. It's a growing market. And in reality, going back to the point about inflation, even if you put aside all interest rates, economic factors, inflation actually making it cheaper, it's a growth market. It's a good thing to be in with. So that's our view on what's going on in the marketplace at the moment. It's booming to a certain extent, but we think it'll continue. Some questions from this last week. We've got a subscriber called Powder Milk 69. We're looking at buying a house, me and my partner, and we're a bit worried about the current market and economic conditions. We live in an apartment and life is easy. We're saving well, but we want to upgrade to buy a nice house and start a family. Would you wait and see what the market might do, or would you buy now? Where do you see the market going in the next year? Well, this is what the market wrap has just said. It's going to continue an upward trend. And the point is, you don't know what's around the corner. It's always better to make a decision and jump in if you can. And when you do borrow, try and borrow as much as you can, because inflation, it'll probably fall below the government's target of 2% this year, but it's still going to be eroding that debt away for you. So buy sooner rather than later. Look at where you're buying. Does it fit in with pies, population growth, infrastructure growth, employment growth? Is it somewhere where you'd want to live and be able to sell in the future? Okay, now we've got Seawig Deals. It's not about having a lot of money, it's about knowing how to manage, invest and grow what you have. Absolutely. You can buy in some pretty rubbish places and your money will go down. I've got a client who bought in Thornaby on Tees for £127,000, and I think it's still worth 85 now. So that was not a great idea, even though it's right next to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Do your research, pies, make sure you get good advice, and try and get into the market at the right time. And when's the right time? It's always the right time. It's always the wrong time. Just get in. Thank you very much. Stuart Williamson. Okay, Expert Property Playbook. If you get a chance, do download it. Do ask for a copy. It's a riveting read, or at least it'll help you fall asleep. Thank you very much. Cheerio.